I will teach you about chapter number 4, which is watching the weather. Now, the first paragraph is about the introduction of the chapter, as you know. This passage is taken from a book called Watching the Weather by J.M. Branson. Two children, June and John, have been asking their father a lot of questions about the weather. He is a pilot on an aircraft belonging to a big airline, so he is able to explain. Now, this passage is taken from the book, and book name is Watching the Weather, which is written by J.M. Branson. In this passage, you will study there are two children, June and John. These are the names of their, and they have been asking the questions to the father. A lot of questions means many questions about the weather. And why they are asking? Because their father is a pilot on an aircraft, so he is well known about the wind, or you can say the weather. So, and he is also working in a big airline, so he can easily explain it. This is the introduction. Now we start the chapter. Air and wind. As you know, first of all, the difference between air and wind. Air means the mixture of gases which we can easily understand as air is present in everywhere, and wind means that the air goes with some pressure. So wind is the movement of air which through the pressure, you can say. So this is the difference. Now start this. We will begin with the wind. His father is telling them that we are going to start with the wind. How do you know when there is a wind? What do you see or feel? So the answer was given by his children. You can hear it rushing past the house in the trees. You can feel it against you, and you can see it blowing things about. But you cannot see anything doing it, answered John. So John is giving the answer that we can see the things movement, and which was done by, or which is done by, you can see the things going on just like wrappers, leaves, and the movement of, for example, cloth or hair. And we can also feel on our body if we go fast, if we run fast, so we can feel the wind. So this is very simple. Try waving your hands quickly, said his father. Now his father said that move your hands quickly means fastly. Both John and June waved their hands. Then they folded some paper to make fans and waved the fans about. First of all, both of the children moving their hands, then they made a paper fan. As you know, the fan which was made of paper, and wave the fan, it means moving the fan. So what happened? They feel more wind pressure. This felt even more like the wind. It blew John's hair and made the fire blaze up. Then they were able to move a table tennis ball along and keep a balloon in the air. It means when they were moving the paper fan, so the wind is moving very fast and pressure is building more. Then hair of June was moving more fast, and the force was too great that they can easily move a tennis ball on a table and keep a balloon in the air. It means that the force by the fan is more that the balloon is keep in a air and not falling down on the floor. There is something which feels like a wind and move things about as the wind does, they said, but we cannot see anything. How can there be anything there? Come into the kitchen, said their father. Now, first of all, his father is explaining about the wind, that the wind which can we feel easily and it moves the things as we saw the wind does. But we cannot see that who is doing it. It means we cannot see the wind. So his father told them to show something in a kitchen. He filled the sink with water and asked their mother for two empty jam jars. One of them he pushed into water with the mouth of the jar down. What has happened? He asked. Now, here his father took two jars from their mother, which were empty jars, and he put jar into the water, and the mouth of the jar was in a down position. Then he said, "What has happened?" he asked to the children. John and John looked and then sat together. "The water has gone only in a little way. What keeps it out?" "Watch," said their father, and tilted the jar on one side. Big bubbles came out, and the water filled the jar. "What came out?" he said. "Why, air," the children replied. The jar was full of air. Now, in this, first of all, when he put the jar with the mouth downside, then what happened? The water gone little bit, and why it was so? Because there is a air in the jar which we cannot see. So the pressure of air is moving the is keep the jar empty, and jar is little bit filled with the water because of the air. Now, and the reply of the children is what? The jar was full of air. It means the empty jar which we can see, we cannot see anything in the jar, but it was full of air. Now the jar was not empty. You can see, dear father, it was full of air, and air is all around us. We live at the bottom of a great sea of air. When I fly my plane, it goes through air. But do not get to the top of it, because it becomes thinner and thinner as you go up, and at last it is too thin to hold the plane up anymore. Here in this paragraph, his father is telling their children that we are living in the air, and everywhere we feel the air, but we cannot see it. And he is telling about that when he flies the plane, so it goes through the air. It means the plane goes because of the air. John and June then played with jars and air and water, catching bubbles from one jar into another. Suddenly they noticed that they could lift up a jar full of water without the water running out, if the mouth of the jar was below the water. So, here in this paragraph, June and John, both children, were playing with the jars, air, and water. Catching the bubbles means getting the bubbles from one jar to another, and they were surprised to notice that they can lift a jar full of water without the dropping of water outside the jar, but the mouth of the jar was under the water. It means below the water. When they pointed this out, their father showed them a trick. He slipped a card under the mouth of jar and then lifted jar right out of the water. When he took his hand away, the card, much to surprise of the children, stayed on. Why does it do that? They said. And why does the water stay in the jar when you lift it up? Now, the trick his father used, that he took a card and he put the card under the mouth of the jar, on the mouth of the jar, and then he took out the jar. So what happened? Surprise thing was that the cart and jar filled with water come out exactly like this, and they were very surprised to see that. This is because the air has weight, their father said, and its weight presses down round in all directions. It presses on the bottom of the cart and holds it up. Come and look at something in the hall. The children went with him, and he pointed out an object on the wall, which had a face and a pointer. On the face was marked rain, change, dry, and some figures. This is called barometer. Their father told them it means a weight